G'day, Bomber fans. We have got another trade update. This time, though, it is coach themed. So put on your coach hat, get your coach whistle out. I don't know. There's been some news lately about some Essendon coaches and targets. Some of it good. We like good news. Some of it bad. We don't like that news as much. Some of it really silly. So let's chat about it. Here is an Essendon trade update. Coach edition. Let's start with something that really annoyed me last night. So it was reported on Inside Trading yesterday that Collingwood were hunting out Essendon assistant coach Daniel Giansiracusa to join their ranks. This isn't what annoyed me, by the way. This is obviously news. They have a few vacancies with Scott Selwood leaving, and I think Josh Fraser either leaving or taking a different role as well. And they're looking at Daniel Giansiracusa to fill that vacancy. He is our assistant coach. And look, if you're going to look at anyone to join the club, it's him. He's one of the highest rated assistant coaches in the league right now. He's won awards for his assistant coaching. He was actually in the running for the Melbourne head coaching role before it was given to Stephen King. And whenever there is a head coaching coach sacked, Giansiracusa's name is raised in the discussion to replace them. He's really highly rated. The club love him. He's Scott's right-hand man. What really intrigued me, though, and I feel like I had to talk about this so people didn't get the wrong idea about this story. So, Tom Morris on the Footy Furnace last night said that it would be a disaster if he was to leave. Actually, I'm not even going to... I'll just play the clip.
Hurdy, let's not sugarcoat it. If Giansiracusa leaves, that's a disaster for Essendon. He's so important for them.
Yeah, he's not good. I know the players speak very highly of him, and he's a coach that everyone speaks very highly of, particularly the players, so that would be a huge loss, I think, for the Bombers.
Something he's weighing up as well. He has been in talks on a contract extension, as you've previously reported, so that's all part of the mix as he comes to this decision.
Yeah, Essendon were incredibly confident that he would stay a couple of months ago, so I wonder if that's changed or indeed his head's been turned by the Pies who have those vacancies. And of course, if you want to be a senior coach, you're probably better off being at a club that's in the window rather than the club down the bottom of the ladder.
So yeah, interesting comments there from Tom Morris, big claims, and let me quickly say, if Giansiracusa was to leave Essendon, it would be far from ideal. It would not be good. He's a very good assistant coach. He is Scott's right-hand man. He's really important at the club. The players love him, and you know, while we're rebuilding, it would be good to have that stability, especially with a senior coach there, really respected senior coach. So it wouldn't be a good thing if Giansiracusa left. I agree with that. But to label this a disaster is hilarious. It is genuinely some of the worst journalism to come out about the club in the last few weeks, and that is saying something. I haven't even been that annoyed with some of the Exodus chat, but this one, for some reason, really grinded my gears. Now, fair enough to Tom Morris. He got clicks out of this. He annoyed some Essendon fans. But Giansiracusa he's going to be leaving the club at some stage. That is guaranteed. He's been in the mix for multiple head coaching moves away from the Bombers in his time here. I've always thought it was a matter of when, not if, that he moves Essendon. And honestly, if he's really serious about becoming a head coach, it makes sense for him to join Collingwood, take up this offer and join the Magpies. I think it would look a lot better on his resume to be at a contending club instead of a rebuilding club like Essendon. That is nothing against the Bombers or the Pies or anyone. It is just different, stages of club trajectory. The Pies are in a better spot right now for a coach to have, on their CV. So, and I wouldn't have any issues with him if he was to leave. Assistant coaches swap around clubs all the time. Giansiracusa himself only finished playing footy about a decade ago for the Bulldogs, and since then he's been part of two coaching setups at AFL clubs. It wasn't a disaster when he left the Bulldogs, and similarly, it wasn't a disaster when Selwood left Collingwood, or when Stephen King left Gold Coast, or when any other assistant coaches moved away from their clubs. Again, in an ideal world, Giansiracusa stays with the Bombers, but to call this a disaster is implying that it would ruin the club or something. Like, it would be an inconvenience. It wouldn't be good, and we'd have to replace him, likely with someone experienced, but it wouldn't be anywhere near a disaster. I'd see him moving as a huge step up in his career and a big step towards being that AFL coach that he's been trying to be in recent years. It would not be a disaster at all. And maybe Tom Morris, maybe he chose the wrong words. I don't think he did. I think this was very calculated. This stuff happens all the time. I wonder why it wasn't a disaster when Hawthorn's awesome VFL coach, Zane Littlejohn, left for a different opportunity. That's a big loss, but it's not a disaster. Stuart Dew, I think yesterday, just left to Port Adelaide. Big loss, not a disaster, not even talked about by Tom Morris. These coaching changes happen all the time. It is an ever-changing landscape. I've always fully expected Giansiracusa to leave and eventually be an AFL coach. And honestly, I think he's been at the club for 5 or 6 years, 6 or 7, I don't know. He's been at the club for a while, and I mean, I feel like he's overstayed his lifespan. I would have thought he'd be gone by now. He's been in the running for the Melbourne job, and no one batted an eye when that happened, when his name was raised. I don't know. I see this as Tom trying to spin this narrative about the club falling apart. Same as the Exodus stories. You know, he pulled out that Mason Redmond news out of his bum, even though that news was from earlier in the year. There are some really good AFL journalists, and Tom himself is great at breaking stories, but he clearly does have a bit of an agenda against certain clubs, and Essendon right now is one of them. So to set the story straight, Giansiracusa is being approached by the Collingwood Magpies to join the club. He does have a 2-year contract offer on the table from Essendon and hasn't made a decision yet on what he will do. If I was him, I'd be going to Collingwood. They're a breeding ground for head coaches and will be higher up the ladder. I think that makes sense for him to leave, and it's not even close to a disaster if he does. It would be an inconvenience. It would be not ideal, but to call it a disaster is clearly the work of someone pushing a certain agenda. And, I mean, if we're talking trades, there is a relationship between Tom Morris and Zach Merritt's manager, Tom Petroro. He's broken quite a few of the Merritt stories and has added sprinkles to display a club in disharmony. That is what Tom Morris has done really well over the last few weeks. Jay Clark's been a part of that as well. This is another example of that. I'm sure there will be more in the coming weeks too. He's very good at it. People will listen to him. You do have to respect how good he is at his job, but you can't really respect the false narratives he pushes when you're a fan of the club he's doing it with. It's pretty slimy behaviour, and Tom, I mean, we know some of Tom's stories. He has the moral integrity of what does he have the moral integrity of? What am I looking at around my room? A empty can of coconut water. That is what he has the moral integrity of. Now, more coaching news. I've discussed this guy in a bit on the channel before, but Ken Hinkley is now genuinely an option for Essendon, and there is a feeling that we are the front runners for him if he was looking to join an AFL club again. Now, he obviously will take his time with the decision. He only just ended a long career at Port Adelaide in the spotlight, and he won't be joining another team just a few weeks after his Port exit. You'd think it would take a bit more time than that, but he has been in contact with Essendon, and there is talks of a potential flexible arrangement with his geographical links. So he'd be based out of Adelaide and live primarily there. I believe this is exclusive that he wants to be closer to me. That's why he'd be staying in Adelaide. But if he does join Essendon, there is talks that he would fly into Melbourne for 2 to 3 day spurts a week to assist with training and potentially game day, and then spend the rest of the week back in Adelaide. So if this was the case, he would he wouldn't be an assistant coach. If this was the case, his role would be more flexible than that. The club has been looking for a head of development for quite some time, but hasn't found a successful candidate. I wonder if Hinkley could be someone for that role, and whether his potential flexible living arrangements are suitable for a role like that. Nothing's really confirmed yet. I don't think we'd see an announcement for a little while if it was to happen. But the good news is we're trying to bolster our coaching ranks, and it would be a huge bonus if we were to keep Giansiracusa while adding Hinkley to the ranks, because both those coaches are really popular amongst players of their respective teams and really good footy brains. So yeah, the Dons are clearly in the race for Hinkley, but so are other clubs. The Hawks are supposedly keen as well. Whether or not he would fill a vacancy if Giansiracusa was to leave, I mean, this news is probably too fresh. The Giansiracusa news is probably too fresh to discuss that because it was only just announced yesterday. But I think, so far the main talk about Hinkley and why Essendon appeals to him is because it is more of a flexible lifestyle for someone based in another state. So I wouldn't think that, that would have him in line for an assistant coaching role. That is unless he was really willing to relocate fully. But yeah, that is that. That's just it's a quick video, honestly, just to talk about the Giansiracusa news and the media response to that, and to clarify things, he is not confirmed to be leaving. The club has a 2-year contract on the table for him if he wants to stay. The club was feeling confident that he would stay in the past, but this news has probably shaken things up a bit because, he's clearly going to consider what is definitely a better career opportunity at Collingwood. More videos out soon. I've got some on the back burner because there is just news every day about the Bombers. Crichton medal tonight. I'm sure we'll discuss that tomorrow as well. All eyes on Merritt with his speech as he wins, or probably wins his 6th Crichton medal. Cheers for watching, Bomber fans. Make sure you like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and as always, go Bombers.